Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Marín, and I'm excited to bring you my first podcast of People Junkie. So, People Junkie is something that I thought of. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, the entertainment industry, that is. Started off at 16 years old as a country music disc jockey. And, I was a sports writer, sports broadcaster, and I also have a show here in Long Beach, California called Long Beach Life. And you can watch that on YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. But I'm super excited to go on this new venture. And one of the things I'd like to do before I start every show, again, this is the first show, is word of the day. So this means a lot to me, pivot. What does pivot mean? It means to move or turn. Simple, right? Well, to move or turn, that's very important, especially during COVID-19. And I wanted to bring you this show, People Junkie, so that you are able to connect with others that you probably thought you could never connect with. And with that said, I want to bring on my first guest. I'm super excited. His name is Vince Royale. And Vince Royale and I have gone back, many, many years. I first met him when he was doing stand up here in Long Beach, California. So, without further ado, I introduce you to Vince Royale, aka Vinny Baby. Hi,
Hey,
Vince.
hey.
How's it
Uh, yeah,
going? Welcome to People Junkie.
man, you got the whole world behind you. I like that.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I mean, this is only a start. I got my other artist friends working on a background, so I'm super excited. I know.
That is awesome. I
Thank
love
you.
the fact that you have all the like the Verizon areas in your background. It tells you, all right, this is where we get service. I love that.
Well, and there's no light pollution, right? And so you can see all the stars, and I love the stars as well. And speaking of stars, I just did a brief introduction, but there's so much you have done. You've been in, doing comedy for so many years. People probably have seen you on Cooking on High on Netflix. Also, you've been on Hulu, Not for Nothing, and so many more. Even the local
That is
stand-up
that,
places,
that
right?
is that is amazing. I gotta get me a Netflix account and Hulu so I can see myself. I heard
Yeah,
about that. People told me,
really,
oh,
really.
man, you know what?
Well, that's interesting. So I have a word of the day. And I know I've been talking to you about doing this podcast, and you're probably like, man, I know she's cool, she's done stuff, but she's just not going through it or following through. That's so not the truth. I just wanted to make sure I got all my ducks in a row, and I'm super happy to have you and so many others that I feel others could connect with, especially during this pandemic time. It's not over, right? And
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And the word of the day was pivot, because we have talked about that, some of the things that you had to move in your life and, in a different direction because of this pandemic. But before we get to that, give the audience a little bit background about Vince Royale. Where'd you come from? How'd you get started? And why the entertainment industry?
It's crazy. For most people don't know me. I'm Vince. I've been doing entertainment for a long time. From Jersey, that explains the East Coast accent. Filipino family, Catholic household, grew up in an all-black neighborhood inside a Jewish tenement on top of a Puerto Rican bodega. So
Sounds fun.
every time I go outside, the kids would yell, "Get him! He's all of them." They would
Yeah,
definitely know.
I'm gonna get into that because it's in one of your bits, but definitely continue.
Yeah, it's actually it's funnier when it's true. I wish all that stuff was made up, but it's comedy comes from a true place, and I never really thought myself being involved in entertainment. I was a total nerd in school, straight A student, until maybe about eighth grade when I decided, you know what, I'm tired of kids bullying me, and I'm just gonna be a clown. And then I think that's when I started like clowning around. But I've always been smart. But I think just being a clown made me fit in more. When I realized I have a gift to make people laugh, that okay, cool, man. People won't pick on me when I can make them laugh. So In college, I did really well, graduated in business. I never thought I would get involved in entertainment. I was more into music, actually. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be the next P. Diddy, Russell Simmons, start my own record label. That didn't work out because when I graduated college, nobody was trying to hire me. I went through this depression period. I broke up with my ex at that time. I said, my life's over. I'm gonna be a professional alcoholic. And that was like my life goal, is to just hang out and become like a really good at pool, and drinking. And I was gonna hang out in dive bars and just hustle people for pool money. That
That's
was
why
my
dive
that
bars
was
are.
the extent.
Oh, go ahead, my bad.
No, dive bars are fun, but that's when I actually came across my first open mic amateur night was at a dive bar. I was going through depression at that time. I was tipsy. I signed up and I started venting. And when I realized I can make people laugh by just sharing parts of my life, I said, I like this. It became like more therapy for me in the beginning. But I was started winning little comedy contests here and there. And next thing you know, I'm getting booked for comedy shows, comedy clubs. And that was crazy. That was 12 years ago. And fast forward now, yeah, I've been doing comedy a little over 12 years. I don't know if I count 2020 because there was a lot of it's just Zoom comedy. I don't know if that counts.
Oh,
So,
that counts, and we're going to talk about that. That's the, one
all
of
right,
the
yeah,
things of pivoting, right?
right, exactly. So, yeah, I've so much has happened. I've toured the country. I've performed for, corporate events, comedy clubs, casinos, and appeared in a few TV shows. It's crazy how like things just happen if you just pursue what you love and your dreams and stuff like that. Of course, I didn't think and I'm not where I want to be yet, but I know that there's more growth, and I'm excited for that. And I'm excited that even after this pandemic, when stand-up comedy was at a standstill, things are opening back up, and so now I love that fact that I was able to take a year and a half off and focus on my life, which allowed me to actually work on new material because I have new experiences to draw from. Most people don't know. Some people don't know. I got married like 2 years ago to a beautiful woman, and that just added a new dimension to my life and to my comedy. And I was able to experience that. And during the pandemic, I lived with my wife, my mother-in-law, and her grandmother, 3 generations of Black women, which was like mind-blowing because I didn't know how in sync we would be.
Yeah.
Like I was like I was like the fourth girlfriend. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the show Girlfriends. We were like that. I was like that. Oh wow, man. I felt like I was one of the girls.
And
It was
congratulations on you guys actually, moving forward, because there's so many people that got divorced during this time because, either they didn't like it, they realized they didn't like one another, or they didn't have anything in common, or they just had to be around one another and we're just sick of it. So congratulations and
absolutely. I
kudos
think
to you.
the pandemic really tests people's marriages and relationships because you really have to be, especially if you're quarantined with that person, you really get to know everyone's habits. I know there's a lot of things that I do to annoy the crap out of my wife and vice versa, but we actually learn a lot from each other. She actually adds another layer to my life and to my comedy. And there's so many things that she compliments me on. So I think it all just you really you get to know your partner really well when you're locked in a house for a couple months.
Well, I want you to talk about, your early days of stand up, and how did that help you with where you are today and where you want to go tomorrow?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I never wanted to be an artist. I knew I was always, I like joking around, but I never known that it can actually be a career. I can make a career out of it. It appealed to me because I've never been the type of person to want to work a 9 to 5, a regular job. So I've always been independent
Yeah.
contractor. So coming from a business background, I knew from the very beginning that if I'm going to get involved in the comedy entertainment career, I have to learn how to hustle. I have to market myself, book shows. I didn't want to, one thing I didn't want to do is to become a professional open micer, you know? And there's nothing wrong with open mics because they have a purpose. And when you're working on material,
Hmm.
you know, if you're doing comedy for years, you know, there should be a point where, okay, you have to learn to monetize it, especially if you're bringing value and you're drawing a crowd and you have people coming to see you. I was fortunate enough to build a following through just social media and also doing what I need to do as a performer. And I love that. I've been blessed to have like very loyal followers all these years to just come out every time I'll do a show at Bray Improv or Ontario. I have a good few hundred people come out to go see me, which is crazy. And that's a blessing in itself. You know, and but that took a lot of grind. It wasn't like an overnight thing. You know, that took a lot of me going out there and really delivering and showing that I can put on a show. I can be, you know, I can be funny. There's so many thousands or maybe millions of comedians out there. They're probably way funnier than me, but they're not, you know what I mean, learning to monetize, I think. And I think that's something that we have to understand. Even as an artist, you have to have some sort of business sense. I don't care if you're a rapper, a comedian, a painter, you have to let people know what you do.
No,
You know,
absolutely.
let people
I hear you on
know.
that.
You, you know, you can't be in the basement just, you know, doing your art for yourself. For me, I'm not. I love. Don't get me wrong. I love comedy so much, but I have a family. You know, I have I have people to feed and look at. I got bills to pay too. So I had to add some sort of. I had to learn to monetize. So maybe it was about the 5th or 6th year of comedy when I started realizing, okay, man, you know what? I have to do gigs for more than $25 and some chicken wings.
So,
I have to start. I have to learn. I have to learn to negotiate. I have to learn how to merchandise. I have to learn how to book multiple shows to make sure I'm constantly getting bookings. How to,
yeah.
you know, so I'm constantly emailing people, Facebooking people. Hey, I'm gonna be in your town. Hey, this is me. I have you know, I have clips I can send you. And the fact that I was able to leverage my TV appearances helped me get more bookings. So it all falls into place. It all coincides. People don't think, well, why is he doing TV? Because it's gonna help you get more bookings and this and that. It's all connected.
Yeah, it sounds
And
like
people don't understand it.
it sounds like it's a hustle on top of a hustle.
Oh
First of all,
yeah.
you
And
have to
people don't
hustle your
understand.
way on a stage, and then you have to hustle your way into people getting to know you, and then they get to know that you're actually a live stand-up comic.
Right. And then that's there's so many layers to it. You know, it's one thing I wish I could just sit there and just tell jokes all day, but you know, you could be the funniest person, but nobody knows how funny you are without putting yourself out there. So there has to be some sort of marketing involved, you know. But there's so much ways to monetize as an artist, and people don't understand that. I know comics that are getting residuals, $2,000 a month from getting Spotify, Pandora, iTunes plays, just because they put out an audio album. And that's something that why isn't every comedian doing that? All you have to do is, you know, put your solid 30 minutes, 45 minutes together, create your comedy album, and have it distributed through those platforms. You could be easily making 2, 3 grand a month. You know, there's no reason after a certain amount of years that you should not be able to monetize on what we do. We put so much work into our art that we should be compensated for that. What else are we doing this for? I
Absolutely.
mean, you know, I don't knock anyone that does it for a hobby. You know what I mean? Or you're doing it for a hobby, but after a certain point, if you have family depending on you, then yeah, you know, I have to step up. I'm trying to retire my mother. I'm trying
Wow.
to make sure my wife is good. That's where I'm at, you know. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this for me. My why is bigger than my goal and myself. I don't care. Like for me, as long as like I'm able to leave something behind for my family. My mother is
Yeah.
66 years old. She still works a full-time job. She works 12-hour shifts. I don't like that. I work harder now so she don't have to work.
I mean,
And that's why I
here,
hustle so hard. And people think like I
yeah.
grind so hard because I grind. It's not that. It's because I grew up. My mother was a single woman raising me and my sister. She worked 3 jobs and went to school. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be working as hard as she is.
You know
I
what?
don't
I
know.
mean, what you're saying makes sense, especially to a lot of people. I mean, so many people have lost their jobs, their livelihood. Know I lost my corporate position last year. And one of the things that was really hard is, well, I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. How am I going to make money? And so that's why I thought of this podcast. I thought of other things. Like you said, us as artists, we have to find a venue and do what works for us. Um, and one of the things I really wanted to ask you is, how do you come up with your material? Earlier you said you do pull from, your own personal experiences, but one of my favorite stand-up bits that you do is when you talk about, your pregnant girlfriend, and everyone's like, "Ooh," and I'm like, did you ever have
It's
someone that was pregnant? Because I know
it's
you, and I
so
know you didn't
funny
have a girlfriend at the
because
time. So,
that
so talk a little
actually
bit about that.
that I've been doing that joke. I don't know if I could even do that joke anymore because now I'm married and it's not real to who I am now. I was telling my wife that's one of my favorite jokes to open up with because that always gets a great reaction as an opening act. And I know the joke you're talking about. It goes, "Hey guy, hey everybody, I'm excited. My girlfriend's 8 months pregnant," and everyone claps. I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm kind of nervous though because I just met her last week," and and the
That's it.
joke actually came. I was dating. I was briefly dating this young lady, and she I found out later that she was pregnant. And then she was like 6 months pregnant, and I'm like, oh my god. Well, and so that's how that joke came into to fruition. I'm like, this is funny.
Oh,
Like,
it is.
why is she out here dating at 6 months pregnant?
How did you not know? How did you not know is my question, my
You
thinking.
know what? I didn't question. I don't want to. I don't want to assume. I
Oh,
thought she,
you just thought she was a little chunky. You didn't.
yeah, I thought she was. You know what? And I don't have an issue with that. I don't. And then that's how it came to be. But that was years ago. So I started doing that joke for years. But now I'm married. Now I can't say I have a girlfriend that's 8 months pregnant. I don't know how to work it into my bit, but that came from like little life experiences. Of course, some jokes are exaggerated for the purpose of comedy, but
Mhm.
there's about I feel like there's a 90% truth to a lot of jokes.
Oh yeah, there's always truth in jest, right? So,
Yeah, because
go
it's
ahead.
funny when it's true. For me, it's like it's funny when it's true, and especially it's genuine. But I love the fact that, like I said, my life has taken a twist because I got married 2 years ago, and now I'm adding this new layer of material, like talking about marriage, being married to my beautiful black queen. It's added a different dimension to my life, and I'm excited for it. There's some people. There's I had a fan that messaged me, man. I like the old Vince. When you was talking about how you're single and doing this and that. I'm like, bro, I can't do that no more. That's not saying. That's not me. That's like, you know what?
Yeah.
That's like saying, it's like I can't talk about being single and all the other stuff that I used to do when I was younger. But I feel like why not? I can still be funny and be myself.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit about your process, because I know so many other comedians and they talk about their process, and it seems like everyone has a different way. So, okay, blank slate. You're not going out into the comedy sector anymore because everything's shut down. What's your process when you're writing,
It's
and
crazy.
and
So
how do you think it's funny? You know?
I this during this whole pandemic, I continued writing, and I love the fact that I was able to experience life again and not just be on stage on the grind every night, which I was when everything was open back up. I mean, things are starting to slowly open back up, but I still continue to write. I did like weekly Zoom shows just to get my writing chops sharp
And we're going to
because
talk
I
about
did
that.
work on yeah, and that was cool, but it's nothing like live stand-up comedy. For me, it's like a Zoom show is like a podcast. I can connect with my
Hey.
audience, but it's not, yeah, it's not the same. It's like, I have
No, it's not, but like, let's get to the process. How is it that you start it? Is it just like you look at something, you're like, oh, I think that's funny. Or you think about something that happened during the pandemic. You're like, oh, I think this would be pretty
Yeah,
funny.
it's usually from conversations. I'm not the type of comedian to sit down and write. And then there's comics that do that and their brain works differently. I can't. It has to come from a conversation that I have with someone because I feel like if it's based on a conversation, it's organic. You know, I can't remember words from a paper because then I'll start to recite it like a script and it sounds, I don't know, like a monologue. I can't memorize words. For me, it's like how I remember my bits is based on actual emotion or experience. You know, that's how I remember like my first year of comedy, I've written about 5 minutes of material. Somebody told me have 5 minutes of solid material and you're gonna do great in the LA scene. I was like, okay, cool.
How
That's all
long
I
does
needed.
that take? 5 minutes? That's a long time.
5 minutes of material. I don't know. It took me. It wasn't hard for me. I had solid. I was able to come up with a solid 5 minutes in like a few months. But my first year, I was doing really well. I was crushing my little 5 minute set. But the problem I had in my first year was uh, comedians and bookers were seeing me and they said, "Hey, do you want to do a feature set?" And but a feature set is like 25, 30 minutes, right? Like you're opening up for the headliner. And I was like, I was excited. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. I could do 25 minutes. And what ended up happening is like I'll get booked for a gig, I'll do my first 5 minutes, and then I'll improvise the next 15, 20 minutes. Well, I'll mess with the crowd or I'll make up material on the spot. 80% of the time it would work. The other part it would fall flat. But at the same time, what I didn't realize what I was doing is I was writing on stage by improvising. Does that make sense? I was coming up and building material and I developed this muscle where, wow, okay, when I verbalize something and I'm saying it out loud and I'm playing with the audience, I'm creating this dance and
Yeah.
I'm creating I'm creating material and I didn't know that. And then that's how I developed like my first 30 minutes in the first maybe my first year and a half, 2 years of comedy,
It sounds
just by going
like
on
you were just,
stage.
yeah, like you were just throwing spaghetti and seeing what stuck,
Right.
right?
For me, it's just conversations that I have with people or like with me improvising on stage when I go on a rant and I would record my sets and I would watch it over and over and I'll watch myself and I said, wow, that was funny. I'll make a note of that. Oh, that one was, I could get rid of that line, or I don't like, just by studying myself. I recorded every set and I still do till this day because I'll come up with material and I'll watch myself and I'll study how the audience responds and reacts to certain certain words or certain phrases or how a joke hits. If the joke doesn't hit the way I want it to, that means I got to rephrase it or reword it or maybe take out a certain word or sentence or maybe I have to, deliver differently. But I love it's just basic conversations. That's my personal process. When I do write, it's more like bullet points. I don't write everything word for word because it's like it takes away the organic conversation for me. Like today, I just came up with a joke today. I don't know if it's funny yet, but people on Facebook like it. So sometimes things are funny on Facebook, but when you take it on stage, it falls flat.
Well, how about try
I'm
it
like,
on me right now? Try it on me because you know I'm
yeah. So
honest.
my wife and I on the road, I started doing gigs again. I was in Little Rock, Arkansas last night. We're in Hot Springs, Arkansas, right? It's beautiful. I don't know if you ever heard of Hot Springs, Arkansas. I've never heard of it. I came here. We're surrounded by like luscious trees, lakes, greenery. It's beautiful. I mean, if you love nature, this is the place to be. I told my wife, look, babe, let's be romantic. Why don't we make love in the wilderness? And she goes, oh, hell no. What you think this is? A white people porno?
It
And I said,
took
and I
took me
told
took
her,
me a minute.
okay, yeah. So then I told her, I'm sorry, babe. Next time I won't bring the camera guy.
Yeah, yeah, with that follow through. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I mean,
So
for someone who wants to get into comedy, what are some things that you suggest that they do? Because a lot of times I feel, especially for me, I didn't have someone pave a way for me when I, got my internship at the Dodgers and I was writing for, sports for the Orange County Register and stuff like that. I just found my own path. But that's why I started People Junkie so that people could connect with others and get ideas. And maybe, if they're not happy in their situation right now and they want to try stand up or they want to try podcasting or stuff like that, I want to be able to give them just a, little pathway that they can follow.
when you start any type of entertainment career, whether it's comedy, a singer, a rapper, don't quit your day job thinking you're gonna be a superstar or a millionaire overnight. You're gonna have a day job in the first few years.
So true.
Look, I worked, you know what I mean? I worked for Wyndham Sales the first few years. I worked at Disneyland. Maybe it wasn't until like the fifth or sixth year of comedy that I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go full time stand up. But it's not until, like I said, when you first get into comedy, master your craft. Don't come in thinking you're gonna make a lot of money right away. It took me about 5, 6 years. I mean, that's for myself personally. Maybe other comics have monetized sooner than I have, but I learned once I mastered the art, and I feel like I have a solid 30 minutes or an hour, I could feature now, I could headline, then yeah, you know what? Focus on, but for the first few years, definitely focus on the writing and mastering your craft. Do as many open mics, do as many shows as you can, record all your sets, study yourself and study material and be original. Talk about things. It's hard. It's hard for comics to replicate what you have if it's coming from your heart. It's coming from your life. So I do my best to write from my life, and so I know just develop a unique voice. I think, but for the first few years, don't expect to get paid. Expect to grind a lot. If you want to get good at what you really do, expect to go out at least 6, 7 nights a night, being comfortable with the stage. Because it took me about 5, 6 years for me to actually be comfortable on stage. To be honest with you, I was out. People don't know that. My first 2 years of comedy, I would always. There are times I'd throw up before a set. I'd go run to the bathroom because I'd be so nervous. But
Yeah.
I didn't get over that until maybe my fifth year of comedy, when I decided, you know what, something clicked in my head, be like, you know what, just have fun, have fun and don't care. As long as you're having fun, the crowd will have fun. And when that clicked on me, I was like, yeah, you're right. You know what? I have to have fun. If I'm having fun on stage, the crowd will have fun too, because the audience will read your energy. If they see you're nervous, it's going to be awkward for them. But I remember, yeah, one of our comedy veterans told me about very first year of comedy. He said, if you want to be good at stand up, you have to go up at least 7 nights a week, 3 times a night, until it becomes instinctive, till you get on stage and you just trusting your comedy instincts. It's like a zen. And I didn't understand that until like maybe my fifth year, you know. And now it's like, even after being off the stage for about a year, I just started getting back on stage and doing live comedy. It's like riding a bike now for me. It's like, okay, cool. Because I've done it for so many years now. I remember that feeling now. And it's like it's just an instinct and a rhythm. But after a while, after you master that and you have a solid 30 minutes of 45 to an hour, then you could really start monetizing, because now you can start getting yourself booked as a feature. You could do small rooms and headline those small rooms. Like for me, I wasn't waiting on anybody, Laura, It's like people become so negative and resentful, be like, well, no one's booking me. Well, then go book yourself.
That's
You know what
it.
I mean?
That's it.
Then
That's the
go book
pivot.
yourself.
That's the pivot.
My
One of the
thing is
pivots I'm
like,
talking
why are
about.
you waiting for somebody? Why are you waiting for a booker or a comedy club to book you? And
Yep.
that's where I felt like, what helped me with my negotiation skills. I would contact I go to a small town, I'll call them up, I'll call up a restaurant or a venue, and be like, hey, so my name is Vince. I'd love to introduce myself. I'll call the venue up. I have a small following in your town. I could get at least 20, 30 people to show up. I would love to headline the night. I would book my own gigs.
There you go.
I wasn't waiting on anybody. Like, you know what? And I planned it. They're like, okay, cool. We'll give you this much. And I prepared already. I'll have merchandise. So like, you know what I mean? You'll end up having control of your own, your own craft and your business. You just have to
Yeah.
treat it like a business. A lot of people that treat it like a hobby, it's going to end up paying them out like a hobby.
That's so true. So again, I talk about the hustle on top of a hustle, now on top of a hustle, because now you have to think about merchandising, you have to think about Instagram, you have to think about Twitter followers. And I mean, it just grows and grows. So, one of the reasons I wanted to have you as my first guest on People Junkie is because how you pivoted. You talked a little bit about it, but we're going to expand. You started an online comedy show, and which I thought, it was interesting. I saw a few, and I gotta say, it is so different. It truly is, because you don't have that synergy, that energy that you would have when you're next to a body, But I
Yeah.
loved how they tried. So talk a little bit about that.
I love the Zoom shows and the fact that it's never going to replace live stand up, but I do love the intimacy. And then it's like a different form of entertainment. For me, it has that podcast feel because we could you can engage the audience. But if you want that room full of laughter, that explosion, you're not going to get that from a Zoom, but you're going to get that intimacy. And what I love about the Zoom shows, it's allowing me to connect with fans from all across the country. And people will log in. I'm like, oh wow, I got people from Arizona logging in, Vegas, Florida, Jersey, New York. I'm realizing, wow, these people that had to wait for me to come to their city can now log on the Zoom and just watch me. And then that was amazing. I love that part of it. So I love that format. But like I said, nothing's ever going to replace live stand up.
Yeah, but I mean, that's something that you thought of. That was your pivot. You're like, okay, well, if I can't do stand-up shows, with people in the audience, let me continue to not only help myself but others. And I thought that was not only genius, but it was selfless of you to do that, because you could have just worked on your own material, but you brought in others. You brought in, like, I think 4 or 5 different comics every time you had a show. Are you going to have another show? Are you going to continue that forum as
Yeah,
well as in
I'll
person?
probably I'll still do the virtual shows maybe once a month because I love that. Like I said, I'll connect with people from all over the country. I love that aspect about it. And so I'm never going to stop that. But I've done other things, what I love about the pandemic, that for me, it was a hidden blessing because I learned new skill sets. I became more money savvy too during this pandemic. And
Talk about
you have
that.
to be, yeah.
Talk
The
about
first
that.
few years of comedy, there's nothing wrong with being a struggling artist. For me, it's like, okay, cool. I'll take a $50 gig. I'll eat Doritos and ramen noodles all day. But now I'm married. I got married. I mean, I've been with my lady for 3 years. She's not going to run with that. I have to be a little more savvy. And I
Hmm.
realized, I calculated for the past 12 years that I've done comedy, I probably made 6 figures doing comedy between touring, merchandising, TV appearances, um, you know, just at the end of the day, I don't know where that money went.
See,
Like,
that's
where
the
did all that
joke.
money
That's a
go?
joke.
That's the
Because
joke.
it's true.
But now I realized because it was because I lacked the discipline and didn't have the money savviness that I did have. So during the pandemic, I actually had a blessing. I met a mentor, you know, multi 7-figure earner. I got a couple of mentors, and I realized, man, that's what I've been doing. I've been saving just to save, and I've never learned how to make money work for me. I was
Hmm.
just making money just to pay bills,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to do that anymore. So I did have to learn to pivot. I learned it. Did you, and it's mind blowing. Like, man, why I haven't been doing this for the past 10, 12 years? I could have been flipping my money this whole time, you know, People are so trained to just put their money in the bank and save just to save, but they realize that money's not even working for them. You know, the average bank interest is 0.003%. You know, according to the rule of 72 by Albert Einstein, it's going to take you 2,400 years to double your money. So if you had $1,
Wow.
it'll take 2,400 years to get it to $2. I don't have that time to wait.
I don't think any of us have that time. But I mean,
No, I
especially
don't know
now.
anybody that old. I don't know anybody that old except for maybe Bernie Sanders, but that's
Oh,
different, you know.
I love Bernie. Feel the burn, right? No, but it's true. So what's one key thing that, you feel comfortable talking about that they told you so that you can grow your money?
Save to invest, and the value. Like my wife and I, we studied. We became nerds, money nerds. So I said, you know what? I spent 10, 12 years of my life not knowing what to do with money. I'm not going to spend another 10, 20 years of my life not knowing what to do with my money. I know how to hustle, you know, but I'm not going to hustle just to pay bills or just to pay groceries. Like, how can I really make that money work for us as our family and actually leave behind wealth? Does that make sense? Like, you know what?
Yeah. I mean,
You know what?
it does.
Yeah, and it's sad. Like my wife got insured. She got licensed to sell life insurance, so she does that. So like she's really educating me on the value of like leaving behind assets for a family, protecting our families, and having money like work for us, stuff like that. We studied the stock market, we studied cryptocurrency, we studied real estate. I'm like, whoa, all this time I could have been investing in all these assets and having money work for us. But instead, what am I doing? What was I doing with my money? Turning up, you know?
Yeah.
And
No, I hear you.
but
I actually looked up Brad Garrett, from Everyone Loves Raymond, and he's on a new show, which is Single Parents or something. It's pretty funny. And, I have this habit of looking up people's net worth. So I just looked it up and he's worth $60 million. I'm like, wow. Well, turns out that he was investing in all this real estate without people knowing, and he got all that accumulated wealth due to that. So is that something that you're talking about?
yeah, exactly. So now, like, you know what? Instead of saving just to save, I have more money working for us now. You know, I've studied, I'm investing into like the stock market, into index funds, cryptocurrency, because I realized like if it's just sitting in my Wells Fargo account, it's not doing anything. It's good to
Oh,
have
get
that
out of Wells
liquid.
Fargo, by the way. Get out of Wells Fargo. If you have
Yeah, I'm just
it's like,
using them as an example.
yeah.
I'm just using them as an example, by the way. I'm not no way promoting Wells Fargo or any type. I'm just using them as an example.
Allegedly, they're doing so many unscrupulous things with people's money. I have to say allegedly. But yeah, but no, but go ahead. I hear you.
You know, but it's like, why not? You know, we should be as artists, we should study money and then be more savvier with how we invest in things. You know, I didn't know this the place that I'm staying in now is in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's a 3 bedroom, 2 bedroom. It's an Airbnb. The gentleman that I met, he's a super host, super nice guy, man. He's great. I'm gonna give him a good review on Airbnb.
Good.
But it blew my mind. He has about like 20 acres of land here also. Beautiful property. I'm like, man, I don't want to leave. This guy, he's like sitting in the middle of the forest. His property is gorgeous. And I'm like, this must be like $2 million, right? He told me, I asked him, how much you bought this for? He's like, 200,000. I'm like, are you crazy? 200,000? That's like a 200,000. That's like a closet in LA.
If you're that lucky, if you're that lucky. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I lived in the Midwest
I'm
and it's
like,
actually cheaper. You can get like mansions for about 400,000 over here,
and
especially in
I
Long
told my
Beach.
wife, man, I told my wife, like, why aren't we buying property down here in the South or in the Midwest and
Yep.
flipping it? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It
so, you
just
know,
like it blew
that's
your
just,
mind.
yeah, it just blew my mind. I'm like, people over here living like kings.
Yep.
Like, you can't get that in LA or New York, man. And, you know, I've been studying index funds and you know, I'm thinking of things during the pandemic. I thought of things that I would have never thought about before the pandemic. Like actually protecting my assets with life insurance, investing in index funds, having diversifying, having some in the stock market, having some in crypto, because you never want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, you
You
want to
want to
diversify.
diversify them.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And also having the habit of putting away at least 6 months of liquid assets in case of emergencies.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't know that. You got to have at least 6 months of emergency savings. You never know, there's going to be another pandemic part two, right?
Uh, no, you know what? This pandemic's going to go on for a while and it's a new normal. And that's why for me, pivoting is so important because if you're continuing to go in one direction, if you have not thought about something different or many things different, diversifying what you want to do, then you're going to be stuck and you're going to be left behind because this is a new normal. And that's why,
Exactly.
this is really important, especially for us who are artists. People are like, well, how did you survive? What did you do? And this gives a
And,
platform.
and by the way, I didn't want to plug my wife. She's an amazing financial planner, licensed. She'll tell you, she'll give you a great consultation free, by the way. If you were listening to this podcast, right, and just mention Laura or my name, say, hey, I want a free consultation. Am I on track for retirement? Because some people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Some people be like, yeah, I want to retire with $2,000 a month. But how are you doing that? You
Yeah.
know, how
Yeah.
are you doing that? Are you planning, are you depending on your 401k? Because you're not on track for retirement. People don't take into calculation inflation. By the way, $2,000 a month today is going to be different from 30 years from now.
Oh, well,
It's not
yeah.
going to be worth.
That's definitely another show because I could talk about the lack of inflation that it's still 750 in most states for minimum wage, and if
Right.
we were to count, okay, let's look at inflation, minimum wage should be about 22 between 22 and $24 an hour, and yet they're still fighting
Exactly.
we're still fighting for freaking $15 an hour. So I completely get that. We have a few more minutes though. Yeah, if people want
It's
to.
like one thing I want to say this is like, please, man, and I've seen a lot of it. And I don't want to be a part of that group. I don't want to be the 60, 70-year-old greeting people at Walmart or driving Uber. Do you know what I mean? It's like, come
Yeah,
on, we
but
have to start now
yeah.
while we're young.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're not bashing people who do that because I mean, obviously, you have to do what you have to do. Some people like it. Most
I know,
people
I know
don't.
some
Yeah.
people do it because they're bored at retirement. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But that's something different,
Right. There's
right?
nothing wrong with that. I mean, if
Yeah.
that's what you want to do, because you're bored, you want to say hi to people. Right. But if you have to try to survive at that age, come on, your retirement years should be your, relaxing golden years. Because
The
at that
golden
time, your
years, right?
bones hurt.
No,
Yeah. By that
that's
time, your
that's
bones
true.
hurt. Everything, every movement hurts. I know, like I know a lot of older retirees, man. Like they move and something is just hurting.
Oh man.
And at that time, like I'm not trying to hustle and grind at that age, Laura. You know what I mean? As much as I hustle and grind now, I'm doing this now while I still have the energy. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be doing this when I'm in my 60s and 70s,
Or if
going
you
around,
are, if you are, you
just
want to be like a Paul Mooney, or you want to be someone that you could just sell out a crowd. You know what I mean? Where you don't have to do it as much. Eddie Murphy doesn't have to do it as much. Like a lot of these comedians that have just been on the grind and hustling for 20 years. And that's what I think a lot of people do not understand. It's not, it's a craft like anything else. You have to perfect it, right? And you're not,
yeah.
there are going to be years. I mean, I'm sure you have bombed, and that's one thing I want to talk about before, because again, we only have a couple of minutes left. Talk about a time that you bombed and how did you bounce forward. I don't like to use the term bounce back, because why
Yeah.
would I want to go back
I
to that?
mean,
I want to bounce forward. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Chris Rock, I never seen bombing as a failure, because Chris Rock said in an interview that great comedians bomb because they take risks. If you're not bombing, you're not taking enough risk. If you're having a killer set every night, for me, it's like, okay, just because it bombed, it doesn't mean that I can't tweak it or make it better. Or just, you know what I mean? It just maybe wasn't said right at that time. For me, I take that as, you know what? That means I just have to adjust something to make it better. So I I like bombing because it's honesty. If I'm killing every night, that means I'm not taking enough risk. I
Wow.
want to be able to, yeah, take risks.
Well, I love that. And I loved our conversation. I definitely want to have you back again, especially as hopefully the pandemic does die down and you get to do more stand up inside a venue where you can have that synergy and energy. Before we go,
Laura, I just want to say something too.
yes,
Is that all right? Well, how long do I have? I'm sorry. I don't want to take up
it's okay. We have a minute.
real
Go
quick.
ahead.
And I don't want you to think I'm like the super money driven person. It's just because I'm just paranoid. I don't want to. I'm married now and I have a family. It was okay when I was single to live struggling, but now when I have somebody else depending on me, you know what? I don't want us to be homeless. I'm just paranoid now. I just have to be better with with my finances. So with any struggling artist or any artist out there, just learn about money, learn how to manage your finances. You don't want to be out there, and just being. You don't want people exploiting your craft. Learn how to handle your business. It is a business, and treat it that way,
No, I
and
think you're
still have fun with it.
absolutely. And I think you're extremely smart. It has nothing to, because people don't talk about the money side of the entertainment industry. How many people make so much money, lose so much money. They don't learn about investments. Yeah, I absolutely think that's, essential, basics, going back to,
Right. And it's
economics
artists,
101.
artists
No, you were saying artists.
as artists, we don't have, medical, dental, or we don't have retirement plans and stuff like that. We have to put these things in place on our own because we are independent contractors. We are entrepreneurs. We're out there and you've created a business, and then we have to focus on these things.
Absolutely. And I think that's the best thing that you've actually said. I mean, you're an amazing person, you're very creative, but just that life lesson, some people really need to hear it before they go into this industry, especially. The entertainment industry is a dog eat dog industry. And if you don't have your shit together or your stuff together, it's not going to happen for you. But I just want to say thanks for being my first guest. I will have you on again. Before
Oh
we
man,
go,
thank
get
you so much.
absolutely give your handle so people could, know where to find you to see your comedy. And also, if you want to give, the handle for your wife, if people want to take advantage of talking to her about their personal finances.
She don't need no shine, man. No, I'm good. No, she's actually way funnier than me. My wife is actually all over my Instagram, so you could follow us. We do like literally funny reels. We do silly, goofy stuff on Instagram at Vince Royale. So it's at Vince Royale, Royale. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, but I've been active on IG lately, doing little funny videos with my wife. So you could catch me on there, and I'll post like upcoming shows and if you guys need any financial direction, advice, my wife is super sharp in that area.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Keep on doing what you're doing. We need laughter more than anything else right now with, what's going on. And, I'll see you on stage again, hopefully soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time.
All right. You have a good one. I'll
All
take
right.
care.
Peace out.
Okay. All right. Bye.
All right.
All right. So that was the first People Junkie. Thank you for, tuning in. What Vince had to say, a lot of it is very, very true. And yeah, definitely check him out. He does amazing comedy. And not only that, he uplifts. And that's something that I like. And speaking of lifting, this will be one of many podcasts I hope you enjoy. And also, wherever you go, whatever you do, put on a smile because you may be helping someone out that you didn't even know needed it. Bye for now.